Somewhere in the Amazon, a pink river dolphin breaks the surface of the water. It is one of the strangest and most beautiful animals on Earth, and it is disappearing. Not just because of deforestation, not just because of drought, because someone captured it, stuffed it into a boat, and sold it. Every year, 38 million animals are stolen from Brazil's ecosystems. The illegal wildlife trade is worth $20 billion globally, ranking alongside drug trafficking and arms dealing as one of the largest criminal industries on the planet. And while the world debates carbon emissions and climate targets, nobody is talking about the carbon cost of those 38 million missing animals. Because here is what the climate conversation is leaving out. The Amazon is not just being cut down from the outside, it is being emptied from the inside. And the two disasters are the same disaster. Brazil is home to more species of animals and plants than almost any other country on Earth. Scientists estimate that roughly 1 in 5 of every known species on the planet lives here. The Amazon alone contains ecosystems so complex and so layered that researchers are still discovering new species every year. This is the most biodiverse place in the world, and it is also the most looted. Brazil is consistently identified as one of the largest source countries for illegally trafficked wildlife on the planet. The numbers are difficult to fully absorb. According to Renctus, Brazil's national network against wildlife trafficking, an estimated 38 million animals are captured from Brazilian ecosystems every year. That number does not include fish. It does not include invertebrates. It is 38 million mammals, birds, and reptiles pulled out of the forest annually. To put that in context, the illegal wildlife trade globally is worth up to $20 billion a year. That places it in the same category as drug trafficking, illegal arms dealing, and human trafficking. These are not the crimes of isolated poachers working alone in the jungle. This is an organized, transnational criminal industry with routes, networks, and profit margins that rival the most powerful cartels in the world. The most trafficked species out of Brazil read like a list of the Amazon's most iconic animals. Parrots, monkeys, reptiles, exotic fish, jaguars. These are not obscure creatures found in remote corners of the forest. They are the animals at the center of the Amazon's ecological web. And the system designed to stop this is not working. Less than 3% of environmental crimes in Brazil are ever prosecuted. The law exists, the enforcement does not. Which means that for the criminal networks operating across the Amazon, the risk is almost zero. The profit is enormous, and the forest is paying the price in ways that go far beyond what most people realize. The jaguar is the largest predator in the Americas. It has no natural enemies in the Amazon. Nothing hunts it. Nothing competes with it. For millions of years, it sat at the top of one of the most complex ecosystems on Earth, and everything beneath it organized itself around that fact. It is not just an animal, it is an ecological anchor. And it is being systematically dismantled for parts. Traffickers target jaguars for their teeth, their skins, and their bones. These are sold on Asian black markets for thousands of dollars per piece. The demand is largely driven by the illegal traditional medicine trade in China, where jaguar parts have become a direct substitute for tiger parts as wild tiger populations have collapsed. The jaguar is being consumed as a replacement for an animal that was already hunted to the edge of extinction. The IUCN lists the jaguar as near threatened globally, with a documented and continuing decline across most of its range. Several subpopulations outside the Amazon core are already considered far more endangered. Live jaguars are also captured for private collectors and illegal zoos, where a single animal can be worth tens of thousands of dollars to the right buyer. But here's what the buyer never thinks about. The jaguar controls herbivore populations across millions of hectares of forest. Deer, capybara, peccaries. Without a predator keeping their numbers in check, these animals overgraze. They consume vegetation faster than the forest can recover. Seedlings are eaten before they can establish. Forest regeneration slows and in some areas stops entirely. No regeneration means no new trees. No new trees means no new carbon storage. The forest begins to thin from the inside invisibly, long before a single chainsaw arrives. This is what ecologists call a trophic cascade. Remove the animal at the top, and the consequences ripple all the way down to the soil. One jaguar disappears. Thousands of hectares begin, slowly and silently to unravel. Most people who think about parrot trafficking think about cruelty. A bird in a small cage, a wild animal reduced to a pet. That is a real problem. But it is not the whole problem. Because what is being lost when a parrot is stolen from the Amazon is not just a bird. It is a biological mechanism that the forest depends on to survive. Brazil's parrots are the most trafficked birds on Earth. CITES and Traffic, the two primary international bodies monitoring the wildlife trade, have both confirmed this. Hundreds of thousands of parrots are pulled from Brazilian forests every year, packed into containers, and shipped to markets in Europe, North America, and Asia, where exotic birds command prices that make the risk worthwhile for the criminal networks running the trade. Here is what those buyers are actually purchasing. Parrots are among the Amazon's most important seed dispersers. They consume fruit, travel long distances, and deposit seeds across the forest floor in conditions that allow new trees to germinate. Some tree species in the Amazon have evolved over millions of years to depend almost entirely on parrots for reproduction. The seed passes through the bird's digestive system, and that process is what triggers germination. Without the bird, the seed does not grow. Without the seed, the tree does not exist. And these are not ordinary trees. The species that depend on parrots for reproduction are among the highest carbon-storing trees in the Amazon. They are large, dense, old-growth species that lock enormous quantities of carbon into their wood over decades and centuries. Remove the parrots, and those trees stop reproducing. The oldest ones die over time with nothing to replace them. The carbon they stored goes back into the atmosphere. A smuggled parrot sold in a European market is not just a missing bird. It is a missing link in a carbon chain that stretches across an entire continent. At some point, the individual stories of jaguars and parrots and river dolphins need to connect to something larger, and they do. Because scientists have been studying exactly this question. What happens to a forest when you remove its animals? And the results are not ambiguous. Large animals are the primary seed dispersers of the heaviest, densest, most carbon-rich trees in the Amazon. This is not a metaphor, it is a biological function. The biggest trees, the ones that store the most carbon, produce the heaviest seeds. Those seeds cannot travel by wind. They need to be eaten, carried, and deposited by large animals. Jaguars, tapirs, large primates, giant birds. Remove those animals, and those seeds stay on the ground beneath the parent tree, where they compete with each other and mostly fail to grow. Fewer animals means fewer seeds dispersed. Fewer seeds dispersed means fewer large trees establishing themselves across the forest. Fewer large trees means less carbon absorbed from the atmosphere. The math is direct and the science is clear. Researchers publishing in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that in the most affected areas, defaunation, the loss of large animals from a forest, can reduce above-ground biomass by up to 37.8% in individual plots, with average losses across the Brazilian Amazon ranging from 2.5 to 5.8%. and climbing significantly in heavily hunted zones. That represents an enormous loss of carbon storing capacity, gone not because a single tree was cut down, but because the animals that the trees depend on were removed. The chainsaw gets the attention, the empty forest does not. Less biomass means less carbon absorption. Less carbon absorption means more carbon dioxide accumulating in the atmosphere. More carbon dioxide means faster warming. Faster warming means more drought. More drought means more forest die-off. The connections are not complicated. They are just invisible to anyone who is only looking at deforestation maps and emission charts. This is published peer-reviewed science. The link between wildlife loss and climate acceleration is not a theory. It is a measurement. The Amazon is not just a forest. It is also a river system so vast that it discharges more fresh water into the ocean than the next 7 largest rivers on Earth combined. And what is happening inside that water tells the same story as what is happening
Deep in the
inside the
Amazon,
trees.
the pink river dolphin
The pink
rises
river
for
dolphin
air.
that opened this story is not just an iconic animal. It is a keystone species inside the Amazon's river ecosystem. River dolphins regulate fish populations. They prey on the fish that would otherwise dominate and destabilize the food chain beneath them. When dolphin populations decline, fish populations shift, smaller species collapse, and the entire river food web begins to reorganize in ways that reduce its overall biological richness. These dolphins are being captured illegally and used as fishing bait. This is not a rumor or an anecdotal report. It is a documented and widespread practice confirmed by researchers and wildlife monitors operating in the region. And the pressure on river dolphins is not only from trafficking. In a single week during the 2024 drought, over 100 river dolphins died in the Amazon. The water temperature had risen to levels the animals could not survive. The drought and the trafficking are different forces pushing in the same direction. Collapsed river ecosystems do not just mean fewer fish. They mean the release of stored organic carbon from riverbeds and wetlands into the atmosphere. Water ecosystems lock carbon just as forests do. Disrupt the biology of the river, and that carbon moves. And running parallel to all of this is illegal gold mining. Miners pour mercury directly into Amazon rivers as part of the gold extraction process. That mercury moves up the food chain, from fish to birds to mammals to the 30 million people who depend on Amazon waterways for drinking water and food. The river is not a separate story. It is the same story, told in water. Now it is possible to see the full picture. An animal is removed from the forest. Seed dispersal collapses in that area. Large trees stop regenerating. The forest thins. Carbon that was locked inside that biomass returns to the atmosphere. Temperatures rise. The Amazon enters drought conditions. Under drought stress, more animals die. Weakened and dehydrated ecosystems become easier targets for traffickers and easier fuel for wildfires. The ecosystem weakens further, and the forest moves closer to the tipping point that scientists have been warning about for decades. This loop is not a prediction. It is already running. A study published in the journal Nature, based on nearly a decade of atmospheric measurements across Brazil, confirmed that the southeastern Amazon has shifted from a carbon sink into a net carbon emitter. A rainforest that spent millions of years pulling carbon out of the atmosphere is now putting it back in. Wildlife trafficking is not a side issue to the climate crisis. It is one of its engines. Smuggling routes run from deep Amazon communities through São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro to international airports. Animals are hidden in luggage, fake fruit shipments, and modified vehicles. Criminal networks overlap with illegal logging and gold mining operations. The same organizations destroying the forest are also emptying it of animals. These are not isolated poachers. They are coordinated criminal enterprises operating across borders, with combined Amazon criminal operations estimated at billions of dollars per year. The crime is industrial in scale, and the forest is its factory floor. Brazil has a law protecting all native species, Law 9.605 from 1998. The maximum penalty for wildlife trafficking is 1 year in prison. In practice, less than 3% of cases ever reach prosecution. Traffickers operate openly in markets in Belém, Manaus, and Fortaleza. International pressure produces pledges. The ground produces nothing. Name this clearly and move on. The script doesn't dwell here, but it doesn't look away either. Every animal smuggled out of Brazil is a piece of the climate system removed. The Amazon stores an estimated 123 billion tons of carbon in its trees and soil. The world counts carbon from cars and factories and flights. Nobody is counting the carbon cost of 38 million stolen animals per year. The accounting is incomplete. And an incomplete accounting means an incomplete response. Wildlife trafficking must be reclassified and treated not only as a conservation crime, but as a climate crime. Return to the image of the pink river dolphin from the opening. The viewer now knows what that animal means, not just as a species, but as a node in a climate system.
When someone buys a smuggled parrot in Europe or a jaguar tooth in
Mansion 7
Asia,
Unloved
they are
in
not simply
Sundet.
buying an animal.
The true
They are
cost of
purchasing a
luxury
fraction
is
of the
rarely
Amazon's
factored
climate
into the
machinery.
purchase price.
They are contributing to a chain of consequences that ends not in a market stall, but in a warmer atmosphere, a drier forest, and a river with fewer dolphins breaking the surface. The price is not paid by the buyer. It is paid by the 30 million people living inside the Amazon and by a planet that is running out of time to stop the loop from completing itself.